everybody, and welcome back to the inn. We are continuing with the wrap-up, and of course, it's going to be several days of wrap-up of the Witchwood. So let's just start things off so we can get through as quickly as possible. And we're going to start off with Arcane Keysmith, which is a 4-cost 2/2 mage minion with the battle cry, Discover a Secret, put it into the battlefield. Unfortunately, I think Secret Mage is taking a very big hit. If it wasn't, I think that Arcane Keysmith probably would see some play, but as it is, I'm just not sure here. If Secret Mage somehow recovers and continues to be played, I think they'd probably play Keysmith just to find more copies of secrets, but they're also losing some meaningful secrets, so it just depends on whether that type of Tempo Mage still exists. And 2/2 for 4 is not a lot of stats. But again, it depends on if Secret Mage survives as an archetype. With the rotation of the minions and some of the secrets that we had from last year, that really enabled and created very powerful swings for Secret Mage, as well as the rotation of Ice Block, I think Arcane Keysmith might not be good enough.
This is why we can't have ice block things anymore. It's because you, and because of Primordial Glyph discovering it, so we would have, 6 ice blocks in a deck. And that's just not good enough. Yeah, I think if anything, with Arcane Keysmith, you're looking at, yeah, sure, you can find secrets, but, which one would you want, for that matter? You can put it in your, maybe, a minion-based deck, just to be here, I don't have to put secrets in my deck. Woohoo! And just, have the freedom of being able to make your opponent go, let's play the guessing game. Do-do-do. And then just playing this. So, I don't think it sees play currently. I think more or less probably down the line, once we get later on expansions later this year, it may get to see some play and make it see some love. So that's it for that one. I'm going to Witchwood Piper. 4 cost, 3/3, battle cry. Draw the lowest cost minion from your deck. Well, hello, Quest Hunter. Bob's old friend. He might come talk with you again because of this. At least, this being one of the keys to it. Being able to also pull stuff for Zoo. Or, if you're playing a Gen deck, if you want to pull that Doomsayer out of your deck and to have it in your hand, so that way you don't kind of plop it on the board accidentally or whatever. Witchwood Piper is pretty good in that regard, of just being able to just pull low-cost minions from your deck, and then you can vomit them onto the board. So, it's playable. And that's where I can sit on it. Bob, you're up.
I was hoping that you would sell me on this one, actually. Because, here's the thing. I think that in certain decks that basically have a certain type of card you're trying to get to, Witchwood Piper could be good, especially if that minion is the lowest cost minion in your deck. But otherwise, you're talking about a lot of different zoo minion-based decks, and I guess so, maybe, but I'm not sure that's good enough to take up a slot in those type of decks. I'm not sure it's good enough in a Quest Hunter deck. I'm not sure it's good enough in a Zoolock deck or any of these other decks you bring up. I think that there are better options in all those decks. So, unless there's a specific type of combo type deck that kind of relies on Witchwood Piper to kind of bring out a certain type of minion, I just don't think this sees play.
Screw it. We're taking it and we're going to make it to where it pulls out our voodoo dolls.
Yes! Voodoo doll, which class are we going with?
Alright.
No, seriously, which class are we going with?
I don't know.
Voodoo doll hunter, let's make it a thing.
Can.
Now you just need to kill your own minion, and there you go.
You'll find a way.
Next up, we have Druid of the Scythe, which is a 3-cost 2/2 Druid minion with choose one, transform into a 4/2 with Rush, or a 2/4 with Taunt. This is very good. I think that the Rush form is very solid if you're trying to get rid of a certain minion. This allows you to rush and get rid of that minion and kind of maintain some board control. Or you can go with the Taunt form to kind of just keep minions at bay. The Taunt form especially is good for the hypothetical Baku Hydronox Druid I've kind of been crafting in my brain. I think that 3-cost 2/4 Taunt is just very solid. At that point in the game, it's very solid to get back later on in the game. And you have the option of, if the Taunt game is just going too slow for you and you need to get rid of a certain minion, you can just go Rush instead, get rid of that minion, and continue on with your game plan. I think this is a very good card. I think this card is actually going to see some play. I think this is a sleeper card. I really like it.
I give it, if anything, the sleeper of watch out for this one, because if anything, like at 3, being able to just clomp down on aggro decks because of just being able to go, hey, look, I have a 2/4 taunt, deal. Like, the aggro will be able to deal with it, but like just being able to defend myself and be able to make it to where I can at least keep a control of the game, which people have been wanting for a good while now, is, control-based Hearthstone games instead of just complete and total aggro fest. So, might be able to see it. I could see it seeing play. Since we're sticking with Druid at this point, I'm going to scoot on up to Bewitched Guardian. 5-cost, 4/1, taunt with the battle cry of gain +1 health for each card in your hand. I've talked about it plenty of times. They're really trying to push it. And it's that good old hand druid that keeps kind of cropping up and popping up every now and again in the whispers of the Witchwood. If anything, Bulb, do not include this in your Hadronox Baku deck.
Was not planning on it.
Yeah, I was about to say, because 1 health, I'd had to whack you. So, at 5, it's really powerful, and then, like, if you've got a lot of cards in your hand, ooh, that's a lot of health. And plus, with 4 attack, what's freaking Priest gonna do? Just sit there and just look at you, because it can't exactly deal with it, other than just running and trading minions into it. Well, I come to you.
Yeah, I was about to say, there are a lot better taunt minions at the 5-cost slot, like a lot, that you wouldn't play this year. There's the whole thing of Hand Druid. Okay, whatever. I still think that's the, hey, they're pumping this up and then nothing happens with it archetype of this expansion. I still do not think Hand Druid is going to be a thing. I don't think Bewitched Guardian is going to really change my mind on that. But I think players may play it kind of like they play Twilight Drake. No matter what, you don't need to have a huge hand to take advantage of it, but you can just play it when you have a decent sized hand and you have a decent taunt minion. So I think in that sense, it's probably going to see some play. I just don't think it's going to see play in the fabled Hand Druid. But I think that in just a typical Druid deck, you can probably find a place for this card. Next up, we have Ferocious Howl, which is a 3-cost Druid spell that says draw a card, gain 1 armor for each card in your hand. Now, just like I thought that Bewitched Guardian basically is not a Hand Druid card per se, because I have sincere doubts about the Hand Druid archetype, but I do think it's good in just a regular Druid deck, because you're always going to have several cards in your hand that would actually make the minion worthwhile. In this case, I think Ferocious Howl, you're playing it for the card draw. You play it for 3, you draw a card, and you gain armor. As long as you don't have a super low hand, you're going to gain a decent amount of armor for 3 mana. I think this is a good card.
I can give you that one. Like, depending on when and where you play it in your game, you're definitely going to be able to get a good bit of value from having that extra armor. I mean, besides Warrior, Druid does its daggone damnedest to go, how much armor can I armor if I can armor?
All of the armor.
Exactly. Because, I mean, like, just to name off the top of my head, Earthen Scales, Feral Rage, your daggone Death Knight, you have Branching Path. Now you've got this new thing. You've got Ultimate Infestation. I mean, like, just all this armor that you're gonna basically look like a human walking tank at that point. So it's just like, But if anything, this card is good. It gives you, just a free quick draw at 3 if you need it. And then whatever you've got in your hand, hey, you got in your hand. Next up, we've got Paragon of Light. 3 cost, 2/5. While this minion has 3 or more attack, it has Taunt and Lifesteal. So we play this with Sound the Bell. We play this with Silver Sword. We find a way to, in Wild now, we play it with Hand Buff Paladin. If anything, I think this is pretty good. So, I can give it the sleeper sort of treatment. Because, like, there is, I keep harping on it, and I know it's going to get annoying, but, I keep going back to Galvadon. So it's just like, this could be another thing that helps with it. So, Bulb, is there another thing that I might be missing out on here?
Galvadon, the last Kaleidosaur. He has paragons and a whole lot more. Yeah, Paladin has ways, and a lot of ways to actually buff up minions when on the board. It's going to be very easy to get Paragon of Light at least one more attack, so that it has Lifesteal and Taunt. And then it's just going to be very scary, and I think in those type of decks, you're just going to keep on buffing it. Like you said, your Galvadon decks, your kind of minion-based buffing type decks. I think Paragon of Light has the potential to be very scary. And it's not legendary, so there could be multiples of it. Look forward to this one. This one's going to be cool.
It makes me sad that we're losing some of the Mean Street stuff, because this would have been useful during that era.
Yeah, but it's probably a good thing we didn't then. Next up, we have Baleful Banker. He's a 2-cost 2/2 with the battle cry. Choose a friendly minion, shuffle a copy of it into your deck. Very nice if you're trying to rely on certain types of minions. It helps get you a very nice, reliable minion. Goes into your deck, you can draw it later, and you can use its effect. So very good in those type of decks. Also very good to set up Shudderwalk. Make Shudderwalk go nuts. I think that there's a lot of potential in this card. I think this is a very good card. And I think it's going to see some play.
It definitely sees some play, at least somewhere. I think also in Wild as well, because it's just like, alright, let's put it with Bran Bronzebeard and shuffle in 2 copies of something. Oh, Baleful Banker it does see play. Sleeper. It's a resident sleeper somewhere. Next up, we have Vicious Scalehide. 2-cost, 1/3 beast with Lifesteal and Rush. Hunter just got itself a nice meta-defining spell in Dire Frenzy. You're going to combo this and Dire Frenzy together, potentially. And you're going to have 2 cost 4/7 with 4/6, excuse me. I did my math wrong. With Lifesteal and Rush. I mean, people have been saying, well, how do we make Control Hunter a thing? Well, this is one of your keys. Now you get to actually use it to unlock lock. So, it could see play. It is a playable beast, if anything. So, Bob, is there anywhere else you might see this want to be put into and having play?
Any place I can kind of buff it up a little bit would be fine. Lifesteal and Rush is fine. 2 cost 1/3 with those 2 abilities. That's actually not that bad. So, I mean, you're not getting a lot of lifesteal from it, but, I mean, it's not bad for the cost. If you can basically put it to regular good use, I think it'd be worth it. Otherwise, it's just going to fall by the wayside. So I think we need to kind of see what happens with the meta, because this could be a really cool card, or like this could be a card we see a lot, or it could be a card we don't see at all. Otherwise, I do think the cost is just about right, so at least it doesn't have that working against it. Next up, we have Ghostly Charger, which is a 5 cost 3/4 Paladin Beast with Divine Shield and Rush. Alright. I'm wondering if it costing 5 mana is maybe a little too expensive, but I guess it's not that bad. It has Divine Shield and Rush, which means it's going to be able to help control the board a little bit and still be sitting on the board. I wish it was maybe a 4/4. I feel like that would probably be a little bit better, make it worth it. Otherwise, it puts a big question mark on whether Paladin wants to use it or not. But it has potential, and I'll at least look and consider it for some of my other decks instead of just outright dismissing it. But I think maybe the attack just might be too low. I'm not sure if people are going to find this worthwhile.
Especially given the fact that when you look at the 5 cost slot/spot, it is competing with Bolvar. But it also has synergy with Bolvar. And, as well as being able to potentially go into turn 6 and give it Spikeridge Steed to make it a 5/10 Divine Shield after, the rush effect has worn off for the previous turn. Going face with it and having a big old butt there that, doesn't get silenced. It might see some play. You get some tempo or some mid-range paladin going, but I think more or less right now, because of how strong aggro paladin is, we're gonna have to see a good mid-range paladin deck come out the woodwork for this to actively see some play in the metagame. And we're sticking with Paladin still, because we go to Hidden Wisdom. It's 1 cost Epic Secret. After your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, all 2. Alright. Number 1. There's the Rat Trap that we talked about a couple videos ago. And yeah, if I get it off of my hydrologist, sure, I could potentially set this down and make my opponent have to think about what they want to play, so that way they can figure out what the secret is, and they'll just sit there and kind of have a head scratcher moment till they figure it out. It's Epic, which that's a first for Paladin. secrets, because most of them have been common and rare. So that's definitely new. Being able to draw 2 if my opponent decides to play 3 cards in a turn, that's great, because it refuels your hand. So it's one of those things to where I'm not sure as far as main decking it goes. But as far as being able to pick it up off of something like Hydrologist, this is really nice. So, Bob, can you find a thing to make me, or at least make the argument to where I would want to main deck this?
No.
No?
I think it's bad. I mean, we talked about Rat Trap, about how it really doesn't matter because, if you're in that point of the game where they're playing 3 or whatever, it's easy to play around, or you're probably in trouble already. I mean, it was just not going to go your way. Here, just for card draw, no, I don't think it's worth it at all. I think this is just bad. Next up, we have Earthen Might, which is a 2-cost Shaman spell that says, give a minion +2/+2. If it's an elemental, add a random elemental to your hand. I mean, I guess if you get it randomly, this isn't bad. +2/+2 to minion for 2. I mean, that's fine. I think where this would see play would be an Elemental Shaman deck. If Elemental Shaman actually finally lifts off again, I think Earthen Might is going to be inside the deck, because you can just bump up Elemental and then actually get another Elemental into your hand to just go off, to be that mid-range Elemental Shaman deck. So I think in that sense, Earthen Might has the potential to be good. It just depends on whether Elemental Shaman actually becomes a deck.
If anything, can see Elemental Shaman becoming a thing. And if anything, a lot of it boils down to, of course, kind of rewinding back just a little bit, back to Shadowwalk again, because of how useful it can be in the deck. Plus, you've got elemental synergies and things like that. So, I think Earthen Might is good to go. So, heck, if anything, to be able to, if you can set up for it and get it to work out right, you can play this with your Hot Spring Elemental and make it a 4/6. And just be like, get around it. However, I really want to move and boot, scoot, and boogie to the next Shaman card.
Wow, this really worked out for you.
Yes, because it is Ghostlight Angler. It's a 2-cost 2/2 Murloc with Echo. Do you guys know how much, if anything, I love this card already? Don't get me wrong. I know, if anything, people are going to look at it and go, well, it's just a 2/2 Murloc. Yes, it is. However, I could potentially build my standardized version of Murloc Quest Shaman and make it a thing. I can definitely dump and put this in my wild side version and make this really, really useful, because it just keeps puking minions on the board, and there's only so much board clear you can have. I love this thing. But then again, that's just me. But on a realistic side of things, this can see play. Like, if you're going for like an evolution style sort of thing, just be able to spit 2 down, drop down your Thrall Death Knight to get 4/4s, or at least just spit minions on the board just because you can. Bulb, I come to you.
I mean, 2/2 for 2 is very solid, and you just kind of repeat it across. I mean, it's a very solid stat line. I mean, and they're Murlocs. If you're playing Murlocs in that deck, and that sort of deck, it's going to be kind of like an aggressive type of deck. And for Murlocs, those are solid stat lines. So if you're playing like a Murloc Shaman deck, which is where this really wants to find a home, this is scary. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Because we don't know. Murloc Paladin might finally be going out, but Murloc Shaman might be right behind it. So don't count this one out. This has the potential to be a meta definer. Be very scared of this card. Also be scared of this card. Zap, a 0-cost Shaman spell. Deal 2 damage to a minion, overload 1. So, it's kind of like Backstab, only its downside is not that it has to be an undamaged minion. This downside is that it overloads you for 1. Here's the thing, though. It's not going to be a big deal at any stage of the game. You just are going to be overloaded for 1. Not that big a deal. It's just free 2 damage to a minion. I think this is a very good spell. I don't think this is a spell that goes Hagatha worthwhile, but I think it's a very good spell. It's not mind-blowing, it's just good.
Oh, this is one of those spells that if you're playing a control-based deck where you do play with Hagatha, you're definitely including this one in it. You are including this in that deck. And if anything, of course, with it costing 0, it's just, oh, so you decided to play that minion. Zap! Now it is dead.
And also with this costing 0, it's pretty much going to be like Backstab as for Rogue. It's pretty much going to be in every Shaman deck.
Oh yeah. If anything, this... I know we throw this around a good bit. This is one of those meta cards. No doubt.
You may throw it around. I don't throw it around nearly as much.
Moving on to Blazing Invocation. 1 cost, staying in the Shaman area. Discover a Battlecry minion. Alright. I mean, there's some nice Battlecry minions that are neutral. There are some really good Shaman neutral, or not neutral, just really good Shaman Battlecries. And if anything, it makes me, no, actually, no, because it says minion, I was going to say, wait, it makes me wonder if you can discover the Death Knight. I'm like, nope, minion, so can't get Thrall from it. But we can't get Shatterwalk, so that's just as good. All of the Shatterwalks, woo! If you're going to be playing that type of deck, this does see play in that deck. Because it gives you extra Battlecry triggers. So, Bulb?
Out of all 3 Shaman spells we saw in this expansion, this, in my opinion, this is the best. It doesn't make me want to go, I'm going to play a Hagatha deck because of it, but it does make me go, I'm playing a Shadowwalk deck because this deck so much enables Shadowwalk. This is what Finders Keepers should have been.
Yeah.
This is a very good card. I think this is a card that you do consider, that you might consider playing in like a zoo or minion based Shaman deck, but you definitely are it's going to be a must have in Shudderwalk. And basically, when I'm building my Shudderwalk deck in my head, Blazing Invocation, 2 of them, let's go. It's the most impressive spell, I think, of the 3, and it pretty much enables the Shudderwalk deck, and I think it's going to see a lot of play.
What's it? Hey, hang on a minute now. Time out. I gotta say time out. Because you think out of all of those 3 that this one's the best?
I think this is the one I'm most excited about. I think all of them are good, but Zap is going to be in every single one, but it's essentially like a backstab. Not that exciting. Earthen Might is decent, really cool in an elemental deck, but it's still not that exciting. Blazing Invocation, the amount of really good Battlecry minions there are is not random, you get to discover them, and the fact that it's probably going to be going in one of the most busted potential decks out there, I think that this is the most exciting spell that Shaman has in this expansion.
Okay, exciting, I can understand, But if we're gonna go with best out of those three, which one do you think is the best?
And this depends on how we define best. No doubt, basically, see, Earthen Might is good, but I think the fact that you get the most out of it if it's in an elemental deck doesn't make it great. Zap is essentially in every single deck, a shaman deck, but I don't think it's terribly excited or great or whatever. Blazing Invocation, I just think is good overall. I don't think it's going to be in every single deck, but I just think it's good overall. I don't think it has a really, I don't think it has a downside where Zap kind of does. So in my opinion, I kind of do think it is the best, but it is very close. It's very close to Zap. I think Zap is like right behind it. And if only that, you could only consider Zap the best if you're going, it's going to be in every single shaman deck, because it will be. But I do think Blazing Invocation is better than it.
If anything, because I am me, and I am, I would say, out of the two of us, the more competitive, and, competitive-minded, I'm going to flip yours on this one and say Zap's going to be bet over Blazing Invocation.
Alright.
So...
You're not hurting my feelings any.
I figured that much.
Next up, we have Swamp Dragon Egg. It's a 1-cost 0/3 minion with Death Rattle. Add a random dragon to your hand. Cool. It's an actual 1-cost egg that doesn't suck. If you can kill if you kill the egg, you get a random dragon. It's great. I think Dragon Priest runs it because of Dustbreaker. You kill the egg, you get a random dragon. More power to you. I think any other decks that run or try to do anything with eggs, I think this is a decent egg because dragons in general are good. It's random dragon. It can be from any class. So I think this is a decent card if you can figure out a way to kill it. Paladin will probably just buff it. Others will just buff it. So I mean, it's doable. I think this will be a very interesting. I think it's a playable card.
Oi, monkey! What you be doing in me swamp? You get a random dragon to your hand. So, like, I like that part. I mean, here's the thing that I just kind of in my head I laugh and think about when it comes to Swamp Dragon Egg. Is if we're able to do it, can we just say screw it and, just trigger a play dead and then, just make somehow Dragon Hunter a thing, either in standard or in wild? I don't care which at this point.
I think they're pushing it.
They're pushing Dragon something. Especially because, if anything, like, I look at Swamp Egg, it's nice and nifty, but I'm going to move on to Carrion Drake. Because it's a 5-cost 3/7 dragon, battle cry. If a minion died this turn, it gains poison. It's Hunter. And if anything, like, I'll go back to where I went with Emrys. When I think of dragon, I don't think of Hunter. I do not think of Rexar as the person who does the dragons. I more think of Anduin being the dragon master. Or, of course, Brian Kibler, but that's a different story. But Carrion Drake. Okay. Like, if you got a nice stat line. So you're able to survive on board. And with Hunter, you can make minions die to where this thing does get its poisonous effect when you do the battle cry. So, if we're going that mid-range control route, this can see play. However, I more or less look at it and I just go, no, I'm not going to touch it. Bob, you convinced me on this one.
I think this is very good in a mid-range or control hunter. I'm thinking more mid-range than control, because I think control is going to be very hard to pull up. But I think mid-range hunter makes use of this. It's a decent body for 5 cost. You can easily make it so that a minion dies before you put this on the board. And then it has poisonous. It's going to be very hard to kill, and you can use it to get rid of some threats and keep it alive. I think this is very good in mid-range Hunter, and we do see mid-range Hunter kind of stay alive, and I think that this would be decent. I'm not convinced of a Dragon Hunter, but I do think a mid-range Hunter can make use of Carrion Drake. I actually think this is a lot better than Imris. I think this is actually a pretty cool card. It's a really good card, and I think in a mid-range Hunter, I'd probably see some play. Next up, we have Vilebrood Skitterer, which is a 5-cost 1/3 Hunter Beast with Poisonous and Rush. So let me get this straight. There was a 1/3 Beast that cost 2. It had Rush, but did not have Poisonous. It had Lifesteal. It was neutral. Class cards are supposed to be better than neutral cards. This is bad. And why it's bad is it costs too much. If it costs 4 mana, I would be a little iffy, but I'm going, okay, I understand. It's, you can say that it's about in the right price range, but on the high end. But it's not terribly bad, probably still won't see play. Really, this card needs to be 3 mana. 3 mana, poisonous, 1/3 poisonous rush. I think 3 mana would be just about right to basically just go run. At 5 mana, for that stat line, it's not good. It is actual trash.
I can agree where the stat line is concerned, that the stat line is most certainly garbage. No doubt. The effect, though, is really good of having Poisonous Rush. The cost is also the other killer.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The cost is good. Not the cost, but the effect is good, but it costs too much for you to play it.
Yeah. So, if anything, I can't necessarily... I can't call it what you just called it with trash, because, if anything, it's good for one pump and then done.
But that's the thing. You're wasting your entire turn on it. Like I said, at 4 mana, it would be reasonable. You can go, okay, I see why they price it so high. It still costs too much, but I will think about running it. At 3 mana, the price is right. But 5 mana, the price is completely wrong. It costs too much. It's way outside the range of, I can see where they're coming from, and I'm still going to play it. I think the price killed this card. Poisonous Rush with a 5-cost 1/3 Poisonous Rush is too expensive to see play.
If anything, I have to at least remind you of this. Remember that we're also getting an update when the Witchwood actually comes into play with the Death Knight. So I understand why they probably priced it that high. Because if you're going to include this in that pool of cards that will be inevitably put in with Stitch/Create-A-Beast, having it on the low-end mana side of things might have made it a little too swingy.
Then why didn't they do the same thing for Vicious Scalehide?
You're asking the wrong guy on that one?
See, you're making the argument. I'm looking at Vicious Scalehide, and I'm making a good comparison. Because the only difference between these cards is the cost, and that one has Lifesteal and one has Poisonous. Now, if you're figuring that Poisonous costs more than Lifesteal, I probably agree with you. But I don't think it costs 3 more than Lifesteal. I think that's too much. I think costing 1 more than Lifesteal is right on the money. I think the perfect cost was 3 mana for this. 4 mana if you're stretching it. This is Web of Spiders overkill, where basically they made it cost so much that any practicality or any use it could have had is killed by the cost. This card is dead in the water because it costs 5 mana.
I mean, that's what I'm just saying. It's just like I'm not disagreeing, but I'm also just going.
Well, even your argument of, well, there's the Build-A-Beast doesn't really work because of what I just brought up before. It's overkill on Build-A-Beast because it means that you won't use it on Build-A-Beast either. It's too expensive overall. The Build-A-Beast argument is a bad argument. This is not the first time they've done this to a card, and we need to basically call them out when they do it to a card, and when they do it to a card, we need to call it out that's unplayable because of the cost. No ifs, ands, or buts.
If anything, fair enough.
Because here's the thing. If a hunter actually plays this against me and wastes their turn, they have significantly lost tempo. Oh, wow, you killed a big thing. I still have advantage.
I've heard you say that phrase before and still lose. I've been in that driver's seat before and going, aha, and then, crap. So, let's just cut it here and go to Wyrmguard. 7 cost, 3/11. With the battle cry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. Woo! Woo! Like, I mean, we always go, dragon, they probably ain't gonna be sticking around for too much. And then something somewhere pops up out the woodwork and just goes, hey, we're gonna still be here. And there's a lot of stuff that's popped up to still make dragons viable. And if anything, with Wyrmguard, I see this, definitely having a home in Wild. Because, Priest being a huge thing with, Dragon Priest and everything. Standard? Ooh. I give it the Resident Sleeper tag. Especially also if you're playing this in Arena. And you're able to find a dragon somehow and get it. So, Bob, I kick this to you.
Twilight Drake, is that you?
Is that you that you cost 7 down? You got a big ol' ass on you.
You all grown up. I'm going to be the opposite of you. I think this sees play in Standard and does not see play in Wild. Just because of Twilight Drake. I believe that's the right one. The 4 cost.
I was about to say, you ain't hurt my feelings by being opposite.
Yeah. But because basically, in a Wild Dragon Priest, or just a Wild Dragon deck in general, that's the purpose it serves. It comes down, not on turn 7, but basically on turn 4, puts up a big old wall that that the opponent has to get through. Yeah, its butt isn't 11, but it's not far off. It's 6, and they have to get through that. And it's just cheaper. It's easier to play. It's a dragon itself. The proc is exactly the same. And I think in those terms, when you're considering all the dragons the Wild has access to, that Twilight Drake is it Twilight Drake or Twilight Guardian? I think it's
Guardian.
Twilight
Drake
is the other one. You know what I'm talking about. Twilight Guardian.
I knew which one you're talking about.
But that it's just better. I think it serves the exact same purpose, and I think it's just better, and it works better in your deck. Where Wyrmguard is not a dragon itself, Twilight Guardian is. It's easier to get Twilight Guardians out whenever you want, along with maybe something else. And they're just going to sustain themselves and not die to any other sorts of threats that you might throw out if you're Dragon Priest in Wild. So I think in Wild you don't go Wyrmguard, you stay with Twilight Guardian. However, in Standard, there's that gap that kind of needs filling, and I think Wyrmguard can fill it, and will be viable for the same reasons that Twilight Guardian was viable. If you're playing this in a deck that's not only a Dragon Priest deck, but also has Lady in White, there's potential that this comes out and ends up being a 12/11 for 7 with taunt.
Thank you, if anything, because I was going to whisper that into the mic.
So Yeah, I think that this is viable in Standard over Wild, because I think in Wild you just have better options. And I think in Standard, I think this is going to be scary. I think this is going to take that same sort of spot. So, yeah, I think this is going to see some play.
Hey,
What?
you can make it. You can make a divine spirit / inner fire with this tag-on thing. Wait.
Yep. We have time for one more, Eddie. So let's
Yes, we
just end
do.
with this one. So we're going to end with Cauldron Elemental. He's an 8-cost 7/7 Elemental with the effect your other Elementals have +2 attack. Me like. If you're running an Elemental deck, why won't you run this guy? He has a decent body for 8, and if your other Elementals are just a heck of a lot scarier. An Elemental Shaman, this just might be what they need to just push forward and push the damage and the board presence and just make it scary. Just big elemental stuff on the board. They can get this guy out cheaper. They can get the elementals out cheaper. They can make things very scary. I think this has a lot of potential. In Elemental Mage, you Jaina up. You have Cauldron Elemental out on the field with your other elementals. He's very hard to remove. Now your other elementals do a lot more damage and are healing you for a lot more. You can just sustain for a lot longer. Who needs Ice Block? You have Cauldron Elemental and Jaina working together. I think this is a very good card. This is scary. This is a potential meta-defining card if elementals take a foothold, and I think they might have enough to do so. Keep an eye out on this one.
The elements combined, we have, if anything, another definitive card that would be good. I mean, definitely in Shaman, you're competing with Kalamos at this cost. You can run 2 of this, mind you. And you don't have to have any other trigger to go along with it. If you want to, you can plop down Ozruk the turn after and have a nice big beefy taunt with a nice size attack. And like Bub's already touched on, the other things that you can do with Cauldron Elemental. So go for it. Like, seriously, go for it. Like, potentially try it out. Let's see how this goes.
And that's all for this time. We hope that you'll come back tomorrow as we continue exploring the Witchwood. We only have 2 more days until release, and we're going to be discussing and hitting all and talking about all the cards before the release happens. So we hope to see you guys then.